Hello, welcome. I'm Melissa. Thank you for joining me. It's going to be a fun video. I have my September favorites and I have a fun little lineup. I have a couple of plants here that I haven't really shown a whole lot, so I'm excited to show you them this month. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that little follow button down below. I would love to have you here, and let's get to it. This little cutie is the first plant. How many of you remember this plant when I first unboxed it? It was a cutting that didn't have any growth yet. This is the Epipremnum pinnatum marble variegated. I have been obsessing with this plant this past month. It is so beautiful. That marbling is so pretty on this plant. It does resemble a marble queen, but the Epipremnum pinnatum leaves get those huge splits like my Cebu blue, and I have an Epipremnum pinnatum albo. But the marbling, if I can get this plant to grow like that with those kind of fenestrations, it's gonna be so beautiful. I wasn't sure how many growth points it actually had. And then 3 ended up growing. So 3 separate vines from this one little cutting. It already feels like this one here, the one that's really starting to climb, is going to be the powerhouse of the plant. So that one's going to grow way ahead of the rest. I have another one here off to the side. And then I have one more here that's kind of shooting some leaves that have some more green on them. I ended up putting this one on a small grow pole by Thiccly. I might end up switching it to medium down the line, but I feel like I will, once it reaches the top of this, I'll extend it. And then from there, I might move it to a medium, because I feel like this plant, once it actually starts to grow, the vine can get a little bit thick, which can make it somewhat top heavy, so you really want like a supported base. And these skinny ones, although I like them for certain plants, they aren't the most stable just because they are so small. I was kind of regretting not getting a plant that was a little bit more developed rather than just a cutting, but I had patience. I didn't give up on it, and now look at where we are today. So I'm very happy with it and definitely can't wait to see it in a year from now. This next plant has been in my collection for a little while, and I've struggled to grow it. It's one that's been a little bit more finicky for me. I recently repotted it and it's doing so well. I changed the substrate and it just seems so happy. So yeah, it's making me really excited for this plant and what this plant is going to look like several even months from now. I'm excited for it. I fell in love with this plant a long time ago, and it just never was really happy. And now it just seems like it's thriving and I love it. So it is my Philodendron El Choco Red. It looks a little funny right now because a couple leaves have some spots. In that video where I repotted it, I accidentally ripped this leaf. It was such a beautiful leaf, so now it has a hole, and one of them unfurled weird, so there's like a chunk missing out of it. And if you notice these little bags on my plants, I'm trying not to touch my plants a whole lot right now because these are beneficial mites. I just use them for prevention. I saw just a couple spider mites popping up, and usually when that happens, there's been like a lapse in mites. So they're all over my plants right now. So they are just in full force. Some of them are really starting to hatch, so they're crawling everywhere. So yeah, if you notice that. So I ended up repotting this plant and switching the substrate and pon. This is Lechuza pon to be exact. It's hard to show you over the leaves. And it seems so happy. It just looks like it loves it. And I'm just excited to grow it in semi-hydro now because soil didn't really work. It seemed really happy in stratum, so I figured it would love being in pon. And since it's been a finicky philo for me, I'm excited to actually see if it can grow into a happy plant for me now. So I'm really excited. These leaves are pretty big on it, so I'm excited to just let it continue to grow. I don't know if it'll climb for me or if it'll want to crawl. I'm not really sure, but we're gonna see what it does. And I know I'm gonna be so excited once a new leaf comes out. I adore this plant now. It's so beautiful. Next up is this little cutie. This is my silver band Maranta. Well, this is actually just propagations. I did this recently. So my silver band Maranta I've had for a little while. I've had for, I believe, a year and a half, I would say. And I'm pulling off some crispy leaves. Oops. I like to keep those manicured and keep them pulled off once they go. Very normal, it happens. I get like some yellowing. It's just older leaves that are dying off. So yeah, my silver band Maranta was doing well and it came down with flat mites. And I treated the plant. It never really seemed, it just took a big hit and it just wasn't that happy. After I treated it, it was pushing out some healthy, happy leaves. So I ended up propping those, which was all of these here. I had it propagating in water and it loved it. It took off. All of these leaves seem happy. I don't see any residual flat mite remnants on any of these leaves. At least I am hoping not. I'm keeping a close eye. I do want to spray this plant down again once the mites are gone. I have a mite sachet on this one just in case. I potted it into a soilless mix, so it contains coco coir, worm castings, vermiculite, orchid bark, perlite, charcoal. It's very aerated. It's just like an aeroid mix. You know, some of those components do retain moisture, which helps with these plants, but it is very aerated, so it can dry pretty quickly. It's in a tiny 4-inch, so I just have to keep in mind to keep this plant hydrated because Marantas do love their water. So I'm very happy that I took cuttings because now I can restart my silver band Maranta back, and ever since it's been growing well this past month, it makes me so happy because I really love Maranta and I love the silver band. Now the original plant I still have. I have it kind of isolated by itself. It still isn't happy. I feel like flat mites are coming back on it though. I haven't scanned it yet, but I can see some markings showing up on some of the leaves again, which tells me it's flat mites. I treated that Maranta several weeks and I thought they were gone because it was growing some healthy leaves, but there must have been some remnants because I feel like they're coming back to it. I don't know what it is, Marantas and flat mites, they just are drawn to them. I don't know if flat mites are more prevalent in this area. I never heard of them until earlier this year when they attacked several Maranta calathea of mine. If my original one, if I cut it back and it just ends up dying back all the way, it just isn't happy, then I'll just get rid of that one and continue with this one. And I can always propagate this one once it grows a little bit more, and just in case, because yeah, I don't want anything to happen to this plant and this Maranta. So this one I absolutely adore. Next up is an Alocasia, and it's an Alocasia that I am absolutely loving so much. And it's my Jacklyn. I have a new leaf coming in too, which is super exciting. But I just want to show you how big this leaf is. Look at that. That is amazing. I do think I featured this one recently, so I don't want to talk about it that much, but I have been loving it this month. It's amazing to see this plant now compared to what it was in January because it was a very tiny plant in soil and it didn't do that well. I think it caught the fungal thing that was going on with my alocasias. So I ended up like restarting it in stratum again. Stratum is seriously amazing. If you haven't tried it, you need to give it a go. You can buy the small bag, I think for $18 on Amazon. And if I never like tried it, I wouldn't have had like all the successful rehabs that I've done in stratum. And you don't know that you're gonna love something until you actually try it. You have to try it for yourself. Everyone has their opinion on things and what they like using. So, and that's like the fun thing about experimenting with plants. You know, it's fun to experiment with different things to see what you actually end up liking for yourself. Because yeah, I may love stratum, but someone else may not like it, and that's totally fine. But if you haven't tried it, give it a go. And again, same thing. If I hadn't have tried pon, I wouldn't be loving it right now, and a lot of my plants wouldn't be like growing back. I mean, ever since I put some of my alocasia into pon and some of my other plants, they are just taking off. This plant has grown these leaves in stratum and they're humongous. Like, look at the size of this leaf. It is just incredible. It is absolutely loving pon. Oop, my packet fell. And I just can't go back. I cannot go back to putting this plant in soil. It is so happy in semi-hydro. And I love the Jacklyn. I cannot wait to see this new leaf here. There's a growth point here coming out, which is so exciting. And look at that cool stem on this alocasia. Isn't that cool? It's like a zebra print. So cool. And then the Jacklyn leaf itself, I don't know if the camera is going to pick up the fuzziness on the leaves. It's like little fine baby hairs on the leaves. It's so cool. I don't know how to describe it. I'm definitely going to be moving more alocasia to pond. I may end up growing all of my alocasia in pond. They're just doing so well. I've had my black velvet, it's in front of me, and I've struggled to grow it in soil for 2 years, and it is just loving life in pond. I've gotten like 3 new leaves in the past couple weeks on it, and I'm just in awe. For someone who's only strictly grown in soil, it's just amazing to me. And yeah, I'm just so happy I tried it. I just adore it. I wanted to feature a Hoya in this favorite video, and I just have been loving this one lately. This is my Hoya Linearis. It's one of my favorite Hoyas in my collection. I've had this Linearis for a really long time, and I've propagated it many times. And yeah, it's so beautiful. It's actually really long. Let me show you the length of it. Oop. Some of the strands are really long on it. Super long. I've always loved this Hoya because it doesn't look like a typical Hoya in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I just think the plant leaves are so cool. It's very soft feeling. I love just like coming and like combing my hand down the vine. It's just so, I don't know, I just love the texture. I love the way that it feels. And yeah, it's amazing. I've had this Hoya probably 2.5 years, I would say. It started as just one vine. I got it from a local plant group, just a cutting. I couldn't find any locally to me. This was like during pandemic time, so you know how that was with plants. And yeah, I got it from a girl for $8. She sold me a cutting, and yeah, I let it grow. I propagated it, and this is the plant that I have today. You can definitely buy a bigger, more established one, and you don't have to wait to have like a pretty full plant. So it's just whatever you like and whatever you prefer. Yeah, I'm happy that I like didn't buy a full one, and I like took the time to grow this one because it makes it more special. This one has not bloomed for me though. I get a couple of spots where I feel like a peduncle is going to come out. I don't know, it just like it dries up in a way, in a sense. I don't know. I don't even know if those are peduncles or if it was just like a growth point that ended up just dying off. It's probably a growth point actually. So yeah, I have not had any blooms on this one, so still waiting. So yeah, I love the Linearis. I'm really happy with it, and I can't wait for it to bloom. I just have been loving this one this month, and the way that it just trickles down off of my plant shelf. So yeah, if you don't have a Linearis, I definitely recommend. I feel like it's a beginner-friendly Hoya because Hoyas tend to like to dry out all the way, and if you're a beginner, sometimes you can be a little heavy on the water. So since this one does like its water and I feel like it is more thirsty, I feel like it's harder to rot this one, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely one that I love and recommend. Next up is my variegated Frydek. I had to show this one because it's just definitely one of my top favorite plants right now. I am in love with it. It is so beautiful. And it's another alocasia that is thriving in pond. Yeah, I have no words to describe this plant. I have a yellow leaf here. I'm gonna go ahead and pluck that away. There we go. I have a corm that was here in the middle that I added in, and it just gave me this pretty white leaf here. It is gorgeous, that one. And then the main corm stump gave me this here as the latest leaf. It has more green on it, but some of these leaves are very white and variegated. This leaf here in the middle is one of my favorites because of all that mint. It's one of my favorite colors, and it's so gorgeous on this alocasia. I hope that leaf lasts a while and it doesn't die off, because I don't think I've ever seen a more beautiful plant leaf. The dark green, the mint, the white, it is just stunning. I was really scared of growing an Alocasia Frydek variegated because they are a bit more expensive. You can buy corms now. I feel like they're coming down in price, but they're still somewhat expensive. I know that feeling of getting an expensive plant and you don't want it to die, and it can be kind of scary. If you have one and it's not doing well and it's in soil, I highly recommend rehabbing it in stratum. You could rehab it in pond, but I honestly would rehab it in stratum for a while first and then move it to pond. That's what I did. And I feel like they took to pond very well from stratum. A lot of my rehabs I grew in stratum first, just so it developed a healthy root system before I transferred it to pond. I also have this plant, this one here, that's been growing in soil. But my question I wanted to ask you guys, so I definitely love this one, and since I did add a corm, I don't want to add I don't want to disrupt this, this is one plant. So I do want this one to be like my second plant of this in my collection, you know, because again, one of those things where it doesn't hurt to have two. And this one is giving me a gorgeous, gorgeous leaf. Like, look at that. It's like more yellow creamy in the middle. And for being in soil, I'm very surprised that it's holding on. This will be the 5th leaf. It's very shocking to me that it's doing that. It has some gorgeous variegation on it still. This one was pretty green. So I'm thinking what I might do, I did put this one in soil, but I don't think I want to leave it in soil. These are both living in my Ikea cabinet, so it's pretty controlled, temperature and humidity wise in there. But I feel like if I move it out, which I'm gonna have to move this one out soon because it's getting a little big to stay in there, which frightens me. I don't want to take it out because it's gonna be exposed to the elements out of the cabinet, which is more humidity, temp fluctuations. It's gonna be exposed to potential pests. So I am very worried, and I'm worried that I'm not going to give it the ideal light in there. But I'm hoping once I actually downsize and get some plants sold and cuttings and chopping plants back, I'm going to have a lot more room in here, so then I won't feel as crowded. So I'm hoping that she can stay in there for a while until I can get that done. So this one, since it is in soil and it seems to be doing well, I know if I take it out of the cabinet, it's probably not going to like it. So I'm thinking about moving this one to pond too as well. So I might do that. I don't really want anything to happen to this one because I love them both. I love how variegated and beautiful this one is, but this one's giving me beautiful leaves too. And some corms have different variegation. This one is definitely a lot more creamy yellow compared to this one where it's more white and stuff. So I love the variety of having one that's more yellow. So yeah, let me know what I should do. I think it's a good idea moving it to pond. But since it seems happy, I just don't know. I don't know what to do with that one. I have 3 more favorites that I want to share with you this month, and I'm actually going to take you to their spot because 2 are moss poles that I want to just give a little love to. And the other one is in my dining area, so I figured I would just take you out there and show you the plant out of my plant room. So yeah, let's get to the last 3 plants. All right, I'm in my dining room, and the next plant that I have been loving lately is this huge begonia. Look at this plant. Oh, a crusty leaf just fell off. I think that was the only one. But yes, look at her. I'm not a begonia girly. I've never been a begonia person, but this Begonia Maculata has been just so impressive lately. And I'm actually growing it just in water. This is completely in hydro. I debated on what I should do with this because I ended up chopping all these vines off of my Begonia Maculata. It was just unruly, and the bottom cuts I had to end up tossing because they didn't grow. They didn't produce any growth. I don't know what happened with that one. So all these cuts I had rooting, and my intention was to pot it back up into soil. But I think I'm going to keep it growing in water. I just love the way that it looks and the way that it's growing. It seems really happy. So I don't want to mess with that. The vines are getting a little bit floppy because she is so big. This is her backside. Look at all that red. Isn't that beautiful? So I might just end up getting a bigger vessel because the roots are kind of getting carried away in here. So yeah, I'll probably look for a bigger glass vessel and switch her over to a new one, but I think I'm just gonna keep her growing in water. I have a couple plants that I have growing in water, and this is one of them. So yeah, it's pretty easy. I clean the pot out every once in a while, maybe once a month. Sometimes I completely change the water. Sometimes I just add water to it. And that's the nice thing about water is you can be a little bit lazy with it. And in my experience, that you don't have to, there's not a lot of maintenance with it, I guess. It does suck up a lot of water quickly because it is very rooted in here. So I do have to add water to it or change it once a week or so. But she's beautiful. I love her. I don't think I would ever get any more begonias unless I wanted to do some kind of cool terrarium or something. But yeah, I don't know. This one's very pretty. I'm very happy with it. I've always loved Begonia Maculata and the cute like polka dot leaves. Look at all the pretty polka dots. So yeah, very happy with this one. I had just adored this one. Every time I look at this plant shelf here, my eyes are drawn to this begonia because it's so beautiful. So yes, I have been absolutely loving this one lately. The next favorite I want to show you is this gorgeous, gorgeous Jessenia Pothos. Look at those leaves, you guys. They are incredible. Look at how vibrant and yellow. This is pretty true to color. I was trying to like take her around to my plant room to find some lighting that actually gives off the true color of these leaves. It's really hard to come across on film sometimes because the lighting can wash things out. I'm obsessed. I am obsessed. And I always thought I loved Monstera aria because of the yellow, but come on, this is a pothos. A pothos. Like, what the heck? It's gorgeous. Like, let me bring these leaves closer. Unreal. And there's actually another vine here in the middle, and that's the newest leaf. Could you imagine this the size of my marble queen? I am just so excited. These leaves are actually getting pretty big. They're like getting bigger than my hand. So they are sizing up very well. So very exciting. I have another growth coming in on this one. So yeah, two vines are growing at roughly the same pace, which is very unusual because my moss poles don't normally do that. It's usually one vine that grows for the plant. I noticed this vine coming up a little bit, so I'm just going to take a little clip and pin that here. I found my trailing basket at Lowe's and I propagated it many times, and I decided to take some cuttings to do on a pole. And I had it climbing on a pole for a while. It's been on here for a good amount of time and it didn't really grow that much. I don't know if it was just very slow to start or what, or if it had something to do with the variegation that was making it slow. But the thing that helped was moving it to more light. So you guys know I have these like grow lights here. I have this one off right now. So I moved it, it's literally within like a foot, probably closer. It's probably closer to 8 inches of this plant, and it's making it too washed out now. There we go. Yeah, I moved it like 8 inches with it, and it's seriously done so much better. I will be adding like another foot or two onto this one to let this one climb before I go to chop it. I don't know if it'll ever top my marble queen because I love my marble queen, but it's gonna be a close second because these leaves are incredible. I am gonna prop my Jessenia for the shop, not my pole, but my trailing basket. So I will be selling starter Jessenias, so keep that in mind. It won't be anytime soon though, because yeah, I'd have to like chop and prop and root it and all that, but I am going to take cuttings of my Jessenia, so stay tuned. The last plant I'm going to show you is my Esqueleto Monstera, and I'm going to give you a closer look because she's pretty big. I just extended her. She's definitely been a favorite plant and moss pole this month, so let me give you a closer look. So I just extended her and added a a fourth large grow pole, which you can see. This latest leaf is still very much hardening. It will grow and expand and get much bigger, but this latest leaf is huge. When I measured it, it's about 17 inches is how long it is, which is crazy. A plant leaf to be 17 inches long. It's just absolutely incredible and so beautiful. This was a rehab import last fall, so I've had this plant for about a year now. Maybe a little over a year, just a tiny bit over a year. And yeah, it's crazy to think that this plant came to me with like all yellow leaves. I rehabbed it, put it on a pole pretty much immediately. And within a year, this is like the growth that I've gotten. It's unbelievable. When I extended it last time, it grew off the pole like that much. So this leaf kind of came out wonky, but then like it started sizing up again once it actually had time to root into there. I love the plant and the way that it's growing. I don't know what I'm gonna do once it reaches the top of that because I don't feel like it's one that I wanna chop, but I also want it to keep, you know, maturing. So I don't know. It's going to be a really tough decision to figure out what to do with that one. So I really hope you enjoyed it, my favorites for this month. I wanted to show my sword boy again so much, but I stopped myself. I'm like, no, you're not going to show it again because it's another one that I've been obsessed with and it put out a new leaf and it's gorgeous. I'm not going to show it. It's definitely one of my favorite philodendrons right now and a favorite, but yeah, I didn't want to give that one any more attention right now. Maybe next month I'll show it again. So let me know down below which one of these plants of mine that I showed was your favorite for this month. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys again soon.